What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Long time coming with today's video. I'm super excited for it. But before we get into it, I got two announcements, which I uploaded community post, but you guys didn't see it. First announcement, I got in trouble with the company over the work day in the life video that I had made recently. So if any of you guys subscribed because of that video, unfortunately right now I'm not going to be making any more videos like that. I'd rather keep my job. That's what pays the bills. Second announcement is I had a deal lined up ever since December. I was offered a supercharged K24 with a Type S transmission inside a certain vehicle. He told me a certain number at the beginning. He told me he was going to get it running. Fast forward to March. The car was ready. He called me. We couldn't come down to a specific number. So the deal basically just poof. I'm not upset or anything like that because I didn't get that. I'm more so upset because I felt like I wasted so much time. If you guys are wondering why my car has been without an engine for like 3 months, it's basically because I was waiting on that deal. That ends today. Today, we are installing the K20 A3 engine that I have been sitting on for a while. I'm tired of waiting. We're just gonna put this engine in there, and later on I'll get another K24 so that I can build my dream spec for the hatch. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. First order of business on the new cables. This is the transmission end. This is the shifter side. The only thing is, I don't know which goes where. The shifter things go on here. I'm assuming these are little washers. You pull out the little cotter pin, slide on one of the shifter cables. This shifter cable, the smaller one. The other one is a lot larger, so I think this is the one that goes on this one, and this one goes on the other one. What I'm trying to explain is there's a right nub, there's a left nub on the shifter, and then on the transmission side there's a left nub, there's a right nub. The shifter cable, one of them has a bigger hockey puck than the other one, so I'm basically just, if one of them on the right is going to lead up to the right nub as well, or the left nub on the shifter is going to lead to the left nub on the transmission. No crossing, no doing nothing like that. I'm just leave it like that. I'm assuming that's how it is, because why wouldn't it be?
Got the shifter cables on. Not the easiest job, or at least, you know, I probably made it a lot more difficult for myself. These are like the retainer clips that hold the shifter cables to the transmission, and apparently you need them as well for this. It kind of just pushes in. If you see that little groove, it should just go on there like this. Got the retainer clip on this one, so I'm assuming, yeah, just transmission retainer clips do work for this. I'm assuming if you do have aftermarket shifter cables, you might need one for this side, but I don't think we need one, because like I said, this one was very hard to put on and it's very hard to remove, and it's working how it should. We'll get the little plate so we can put it on, and we'll call it for tonight. I'm gonna be working on putting or installing the mounts onto our K20 engine. This mount just has 3 bolts that attach the bracket to the trans. Just remove those 3 bolts and she comes right off. I tried using the new bolts, but they're a bit longer than the previous ones, so I just ended up using the old ones. This is the rear T-bracket. We're in the back of the engine. There's these 2 holes down here, and this 3rd hole. I think those are the 3 holes that we're going to be using. These engine mounts are for K20 and K24. I'm using a K20 engine, so I don't know if it differs from the K24. So the bracket, whenever I installed the bolt here and a bolt on this hole, this one didn't line up. But when I installed a bolt here and a bolt on this one wouldn't line up. So I ended up going with this bolt and that bolt. And finally, I installed this bracket. This was actually the hardest one. Just nothing was lining up properly. So I don't know if I did something wrong. Last mount that we gotta take off and install with this new one. Last mount is now on. I reused this one since it's kind of like a stud, just sticking out the engine. I just used this nut. Did replace this one. These are all the bolts that I have left, so I'm not sure if I did something wrong. Some of the bolts didn't fit anywhere in the engine. This is a K20 engine, so maybe some of these bolts didn't fit like they would normally fit on a K24. Might just be better off for using some of the old hardware. But I think we're ready to put this engine inside the hatch. We got enough daylight. I'm gonna swap the cars out, put the Tahoe inside, and we'll get cracking on the install. By the time I got the Tahoe inside, got the cherry picker set up, engine ratchet strapped, it was late, it was dark, and in my neighbor's house they have a baby that was sleeping, which made my stress levels even higher while I was working in front of their house. Once I had the engine inside of the bay, I began to try to insert the bolt in every mount. Neither of the holes were lining up properly. The issue that I was encountering was that the mounts didn't reach far enough to the engine bay walls where I could insert the bolt through the holes. I decided to take apart the transmission mount. I took the bushing off the bracket and installed it on its own. Made it a lot easier, and I'd come back to it later. I began to have some momentum after doing the trans mount, and I went back to the engine mount, and that is where it all went wrong. The pain that I felt in my fingers when the engine mount fell on them, the frustration went even higher. It was late and I couldn't make any noise. I had to hold it in. I just wanted to give it all up and just throw the whole engine away, throw the whole car away. I didn't want to continue at all. But I was way too close to giving up now. I had to continue and just push through the pain even though I was down 2 fingers. Having to maneuver the engine with one hand and trying to install the bolts, I was finally getting some luck and installed the first one on the engine side and then the rear bracket one. Moving back to the transmission side, I realized that the ratchet strap was the one thing that was giving me resistance to where I couldn't push the bracket all the way to meet the bushing. So I ended up loosening it, taking it apart, and that gave me enough slack to align up the holes. I began to install the nuts on all of the bolts, and I finally felt like all the blood, sweat, and tears that I was putting into this engine swap were finally worth it. The engine was officially inside the engine bay of my Honda Civic hatch. After all this work, doing it all by myself, I couldn't help but just stand and stare at the engine finally sitting in the engine bay. I was so proud of myself. For any of you guys doing a case swap, let me give you guys basically my rundown of how I would do this if I were to do it again. So I would do this rear bracket first, just to align the engine up. Second, I would take apart the bushing from the bottom bracket. Just install the bushing onto the engine bay first. And then I will line this one up. Get that one inserted with the bolt properly. And finally, I would loosen up the bracket from the actual transmission. It will give you enough slack to push it all the way to the right so that you can line up all 3 holes. Alrighty, officially finished doing all the engine stuff, and we gotta do the part that I'm a bit scared of. We gotta go ahead and clean up my fingers. We had a bit of a casualty installing the engine side mount. It just kind of fell on my hand, pinched it, and me lo machuqué. Thought I broke them, but it doesn't hurt no more. It just hurts like where the cuts are at. Let's wash them. All right, that feels nice now. It doesn't look that bad when it's clean. It looks worse on camera. What the hell? In person, it doesn't look that bad.
What a roller coaster of emotions this video has been. Honestly, that whole week was just stressful. I really wanted to rush to get the engine inside the hatch, and it's finally in. One thing that I will say, guys, is do not stress out and try to just use your fingers to try to move everything out, especially around the mounts. Like my fingers, it's been like 4 days, and now they're like fine. They're not broken or anything like that. They're just scabbed out now, which I'm very happy about. That's the last thing I needed right now. I remember with the D15 in my hatch, my friend Angel, he ended up doing that swap for me, and he actually broke his fingers doing that swap. So it's dangerous, guys. So please use a pry bar or do, you know, whatever tool you got to use in order to be moving around the engine mounts. You don't want to hurt your fingers. But that's it. That's all I got for you guys today. I'm going to get to work on the next videos. I want to get this hatch running as fast as possible, ASAP. If you guys enjoyed today's video, drop a like, comment, anything you guys want to comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. God bless.